I would like to start by thanking organizers for inviting me and giving me this great opportunity to talk today. My name is Natalia Zakrzewska and I'm a PhD candidate in Polish Academy of Sciences. Today I will discuss the concept of struggle as a fundamental aspect of social ontology. In Hegel's philosophy, the importance of struggle, especially the struggle for recognition, was strongly emphasized. Following Hegel, the concept of struggle had a great impact not only on contemporary philosophy, but also on sociology and other sciences. Axel Honneth, who analyzed Hegel's early writing on the struggle for recognition, in a way reminds us of cornerstone aspects of current social life and constitutive conditions of moral growth, identity, and self-consciousness. Honneth is frequently regarded as a member of critical theory's third generation. His habilitation thesis, The Struggle for Recognition, the Moral Grammar of Social Conflicts, might be interpreted as an attempt to separate himself from critical theory and reground his own critical position. This is somewhat a reflection through lenses of dialectics of enlightenment by Horkheimer and Adorno, and especially traps of modernity, colonial traps of modernity that philosophy faces. The discussion around the theory of recognition, the struggle, and the resulting relationship between recognition and power is crucial in today's discussion, especially in discussion of society and in particular social ontology. The problems raised by Hegel were repeatedly undertaken and developed on various levels of philosophy. This shows the enormous potential that is contained in recognition theory and theory of struggle. The depth of certain observations and ideas of not only Hegel, but also other German idealists allowed their theories to be applied and related to contemporary societies. Around this problem, Honneth creates a theoretical outline of the moral progress of society and, following the young Hegel, draws attention to the conditions enabling the progress. The analysis of the struggle for recognition primarily focuses its attention on the concept of struggle. The sphere of moral feelings, according to Honneth, are anchored in the interpersonal demand for recognition and are expressed through the struggle. Honneth assumes after Hegel that morality is a natural condition for any socialization process. The moral progress of societies also has its reference on the global scale. Recognition, therefore, is both philosophical and sociological. In the writings of Jena especially, Hegel presents a teleological diagram of moral progress, devoid of the strong metaphysical declarations that appear in his later writings. Honneth criticizes the evolution of Hegel's thought towards a philosophy of consciousness and philosophy of spirit. Nonetheless, he agrees with Hegel that both for the recognition and for progress, the struggle is a condition sine qua non. While criticizing Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan and Niccolò Machiavelli's Prince, Hegel adds a new dimension to the idea of conflict. He questioned how in the social situation, especially in the state of nature presented by Hobbes, in which all individuals compete with each other and all are against each other, The same individuals can come up with the idea of intersubjective rights and obligations. Hegel decides to locate the struggle completely elsewhere in his system, pointing out that social conflict already presupposes mutual recognition and is a more fundamental phenomenon than social agreement. It also redefines the concept of conflict as not only conceptual stage of social development, but indicates that conflict implicitly includes earlier forms of recognition. According to Hegel, the recognition process applies to each individual and begins quite early. It is in early childhood that we learn to distinguish I from the other elements of reality. This shows that conflict and struggle was not glorified ad hoc by Hegel, but Hegel recognized that any conflict required previous forms of recognition. It is essential remembering now, in my opinion, that recognition occurs before political recognition and requires prior kinds of recognition. Thus, Honneth, following Hegel, attaches a particular importance to the notion of subject and consciousness, which cannot be detached from the social and cultural contexts. Thanks to Hegel, extensive and detailed descriptions, the concept of struggle was also taken up in the phenomenological analysis. This is a very important aspect. However, I won't have time to analyze this point. An individual as a generalized other remains with the other members of society in a reciprocal relationship, aware of mutual obligations that he learns in family life. Parental love, awareness of commitment, working together, and other forms of recognition shape a child's awareness and child's identity. It is a special relationship of mutual recognition because it occurs through love, care, and respect. This allows for practical self-reference, and it is the first stage of the three-party structure of formation of recognition, awareness, and particularity that requires an intersubjective horizon. The division of rights and duties takes place in family and teaches the child to confront individual desires with the general needs of the family as a whole. Hegel's structure of family, civil society, and state is adopted by Honneth and modernized. The possibility of undisturbed relationship of self-reference depends precisely on these three forms of recognition: love, rights, and solidarity. Hegel questioned what makes ethics move out of its infancy. Honneth, following Hegel, replies that this is a difference created by a conflict between what is particular and what is general. The emerging difference that consciousness encounters on its way to self-consciousness constitutes an opportunity for development, and through the negation of what is different, reaches a higher state of consciousness in a practical way. The intellectual development of individual is precisely the result of numerous confrontations that take place in family relationships. Hegel and Honneth look for the roots of social change, going back to early psychological experience. Thus, recognition occurs both at the cognitive level of subject and social dialogue and action. Honneth describes the mechanism of social change that transforms modern societies by causing moral progress. This ensures that altering process of conflict and reconciliation. The conflict itself, however, is an expression of refusal to recognize and is associated with experience of injustice, exclusion, and contempt. For young Hegel, the struggle and conflict is elevated to a certain moral medium, which enables development from primitive forms of recognition to more and more sublime ones, which in turn guarantees moral progress. The elementary form of recognition guaranteed in family relationships develops in a dialectical way. Then the man or woman in society is confronted with the network of recognition relations and can develop her personality. The three spheres of interaction relate to different patterns of mutual recognition. Each of these patterns contains potential for moral development and various potential forms of self-reference. Hegel links social conflict with practices and educational potential. It therefore seems that every conflict, even the one that does not cause moral progress, is only a positive insofar as it constitutes an experience and a path to progress. Fighting is a practical condition that allows for the transition to a higher level of social recognition of the whole society, even if this conflict does not directly concern us. Progress is still made in the symbolic dimension. This aspect comes close to the problem of performativity of language, which is power of language to change reality and that functions as an action. This point was strongly emphasized by thinkers such as Judith Butler or Karen Barad. Although Barad does not appeal to Hegel directly, at least as far as I know, her account emphasized how action through the language can change state of matter. Unfortunately, I will have no time to do it here, but superimposing ideas of Barad and Hegel can give us more informed or more profound direction on the social ontology. In the subjects themselves, in turn, self-knowledge progresses. Moral indignation and the motivating needs for recognition do not deny the values recognized in society so far. Evolution from one level of ethical society to its higher stage is accomplished through a certain disturbance, which is conflict, but it tends to rebalance and to reconcile. When such a conflict arises, each time it becomes the engine of progress towards the most desirable social stage in which individuals can be recognized and can realize themselves and develop. The moral promise of the law is understood as egalitarian guarantor of equality. Around this horizon of equality, certain forms of recognition are being redefined. It should also be noted that the struggle for recognition can be conducted on a particular scale between two entities, or on a global scale as armed conflicts. Honneth's goal is to develop a model of social change based on the philosophy of young Hegel, which occurs through morally motivated social conflicts. Social conflicts relate to the concept of good life and an identity that is based on legal and social recognition, which is capable of flourishing and self-realization. The basis here is to see society as a collection of diverse groups, which is held together by mutual recognition. Honneth enriches Hegel's theory with considerations on psychoanalysis that obviously Hegel could not be accustomed with. The three-party structure of recognition proposed by Hegel, only on the basis of Gork-Mead's social psychology, becomes an empirical hypothesis. Mead agrees with Hegel that the reproduction of social life is under the imperative of mutual recognition. Honneth notes that the conflicts and fights waged around the issue of recognizing individual particularity are a constant part of the life of modern societies, in which more and more new groups are demanding valorizing their way of life or struggle to be recognized. To sum up, the theory of struggle and conflict as a catalyst of moral progress is often criticized for its too general overtones. It is not obvious that every social conflict is really a need for recognition. The model presented by Hegel and Honneth points to the linear and culminative nature of moral progress, which is also not at all obvious. It seems, however, that the very performative function of conflict plays a central role within social and political change. The mere articulation of a need to be recognized and awareness of being deprived of certain rights performs a didactic function. Thank you very much.